Hello YouTube, my name is Daniel and welcome back to another video. This is the third video in my Pokédex app series. In the last video, we created the main repository, the models for our Pokemon data, the API interface, and also our room database. In this video, we're going to set up the view models, the dependency injection, and also a little bit of the UI. So if we go over to our DI folder, we want to right click on here and create a new Kotlin file, and this will be an object, and we are going to call this app module. And this object will contain all of our dependencies. So as we're using Hilt, we need to add some annotations. So the first one is going to be module, and the next one is going to be install in, and we need to open the brackets and put singleton class. So these modules are going to be stored in the singleton class, which means we'll only have one instance of our dependencies throughout our app, so we won't keep recreating the DB instance or the API instance every time we access them. This will be much more performant for our app. So our first one will be our API, and we need to annotate this with @singleton and @provides. And this function will be called provide poke API. And this will return a API interface. And that is going to equal Retrofit builder. So now we're actually going to create our Retrofit instance. And then we can import Retrofit here. And then we need to pass in our base URL, which we have in our constants. Then we need to add our converter factory to convert the JSON data from the API responses into our data classes. So we use JSON converter factory dot create. Then we call build and dot create API interface class, and then add .java at the end. Now that's the API instance. The second one will be our DAO, and that will be called provide Pokemon DAO. And this will take a parameter, which will be application context, and we need to annotate this with application context. And then we need to return Pokemon database dot get database, pass in the context, and then we can access the Pokemon DAO. And then we just need to make sure this function returns Pokemon DAO. Okay, so to get rid of this error, we just need to replace application context with context like so. And then here we can use the double exclamation point, as we pretty sure this isn't going to be null. Then finally, we just have another singleton, which will be our main repository. So @singleton, @provides, and we just type the function body, so provide main repository. And that is going to take the API, which is the API interface, DAO, which will be Pokemon DAO, and this is going to return a main repository. And in order to do that, we can use the main repository implementation class that we created, and then pass in the API and the DAO. Now that is the app module created. So our dependencies will now be provided as singletons throughout our app. So only one of them will be created, and we won't keep recreating them every time we use them. Next, we can start on the main activity. So as we are using fragments, there's going to be no UI in the main activity, and we won't have much going on here at all. We're simply just going to check whether the app has access to the internet or not, and if it doesn't, we're just going to share a toast message. So before our set content view activity main, we want to call set theme, and we want to pass in our splash screen theme. So this way, we can just have our splash screen show without having to have an extra activity. And this theme is created in our style file. So I can show you that here. So if we go down to themes, and we have our custom splash theme here. Right, now that's done, we just need to create a quick function to test whether we have access to the internet or not. So this function is going to be called isNetworkConnected. This will be private, and this will run every time the app is launched. So isNetworkConnected, and this is just going to return a boolean. And we will use the connectivity manager for this. So we need to access that here. And we'll call that connectivity manager. And we need to call get system service contacts dot connectivity service. And then we need to cast that to connectivity manager. And we also need to access the capabilities of the connectivity manager as well. And this will tell us whether it has access to Wi-Fi or a cellular connection. We will call that capabilities. And we can access that from get network capabilities and then pass in connectivity manager.active network. And then we can check here if capabilities is not null. And here we can check whether it has access to Wi-Fi or cellular. So we want to call if capabilities.has transport network capabilities dot transport Wi-Fi, or capabilities dot has transport network capabilities dot transport cellular. So if either of those are true, we want to return true, and otherwise we will return false. So return false down here. And in our main activity, in the onCreate, we can call it in an if function. So if is network connected. So if it isn't, we will show a text message, pass in the context, and then a message which will be no internet access detected. Please check your connection. And then we need to provide a length as well, so toast length dot long, and then dot show to make sure the message actually shows. So now that's been created, this is our main activity all done, and we can now move on to the view models. Now in the UI folder, normally on larger apps we would probably have one folder per screen, but as this is a smaller app, I'm going to separate the UI package into the different types of files that we have or classes. So I'm going to have one package for view models, one for fragments, one for dialogues, and one for our recycled view adapters. So firstly, with our view models, we want to create a package called view models. And then we're going to have 4 view models. The first one will be our list view model, and this will be for the first screen in our app, which has the Pokemon list view. The second one will be our map view model for the map screen. And then we have our saved view model for our Pokemon save list. And then our detail view model for our Pokemon detail screen. So that will be called detail view model. And then if we just go back to our main activity briefly, as we are using Hilt, we need to annotate all of our entry points with our Android entry points. So any type of fragment or activity used in your app while using Hilt will need to be annotated with Android entry points. So now onto the list view model. We need to annotate this with Hilt view model. And then we need to inject the repository into the constructor. And now we need to initialize our live data. So we're going to have one live data object for our Pokemon list, and we are going to post the list from the API to our live data. Our UI will then be observing that live data and then react accordingly, such as showing the list or showing a toast message if there's an error. We will call this Pokemon list, and we'll have a private value called _Pokemon list, and this will be a mutable value, and it is private because we don't want the UI to be able to mutate our list. It should just be done by the view model, and this is going to equal mutable live data, and this is going to be a resource list of custom Pokemon list item. We just need to import resource and also add the brackets at the end. Then we need a getter for this, which will be called Pokemon list, and this will be the value accessible from the UI. And this will be of type live data, resource, list, custom Pokemon list item. And this will be backed by the Pokemon list. So whenever the UI tries to access the Pokemon list, it will then go to the _Pokemon list, which can't be manipulated from the UI. Now our first function is going to be called getPokemonList. And we are just going to post Pokemon list value resource.loading, just so the UI knows that we are in a loading state. And then we are going to use ViewModel scope. And in order to do this, we need to make sure this class inherits from ViewModel. So ViewModel scope.launch, and ViewModel scope is a coroutine scope. I explained this in one of my previous videos, but what is happening here is all of the work called in this block here will be bound to the life cycle of the ViewModel. So once the ViewModel dies, the work and any processes with it will also die. This is much better than using something like a global scope, which isn't bound to any life cycle, which will just continue indefinitely until the task is completed. So we will be using ViewModel scope, and in here we want to use the Pokemon list post value repository.getPokemonList. The next function will be called getNextPage, and this will use ViewModel scope again. And then we want to use dispatchers.io, as this will be a network request. This will also need to be done in the getPokemonList. And we're going to use PokemonList.postValue repository.getPokemonListNextPage. And we want to call getPokemonList as soon as this ViewModel is created. So in order to do that, we need to run it in the init block, which runs as soon as the ViewModel is created. So we're going to run that here and get rid of this import. Now that is the list ViewModel created. We can now move on to the map ViewModel, and we can actually copy the list ViewModel because it's very similar to the map ViewModel. I'm just going to add some more space. So place a name, map ViewModel. We're going to keep the live data here. We're going to remove the init block and remove the get next page. Just clean up the space. So that is the map ViewModel. Next, we can start on the saved ViewModel, and then just to get the same structure, I'm just going to paste it again, add a bit more space, change the name to saved ViewModel. So in the saved ViewModel, we will keep the live data again, and we will rename this to get saved Pokemon. And we're not going to run this in the init block. And this is going to call repository.getSavedPokemon. And then this function will be renamed to delete Pokemon. So in the delete function, we are just going to call repository.savePokemon. And the reason we're calling save Pokemon is all we're going to do is just change one of the values in the custom Pokemon list item to show that it's not been saved. And that will be done in here. So custom Pokemon list item, and then we have is saved. We're just going to change that to false and then resave it. That way it won't pull again from the list. And we're going to pass in that as a parameter. Now that is the saved ViewModel completed, and now just one more ViewModel left, which will be the detail ViewModel. And I'm just going to paste this in, add a bit more space. So with the detail ViewModel, this will change slightly. So this mutable list will now become a single live event. And this is going to contain resource Pokemon detail. So make sure we have the correct brackets. So update this one here, and then we'll just call this underscore Pokemon details. And we don't need the init block. And then we need to create the values for plotting on the map. So when they save the Pokemon, we want to add these values. First one will be called plot left. And this is going to be a range of 0 to 600. And then dot random. And then we also need the plot right, which will be the same. And my mistake, that will be the plot top. This function will be renamed to get Pokemon details. And this will take an ID, which will be a string. And then we're going to post loading up to the live data. And then Pokemon details, post value repository, get Pokemon detail, and then pass in the ID that we got as the parameter. And then the last function will be save Pokemon. And we pass in the custom list item. And then call repository.savePokemon, custom Pokemon list item. And that's this view model completed. We just have one error here. So it's requiring an int, and we've got a string. So we can just cast this to an int, and that will be fine. Now that's all the view models created. Next, we're going to create the adapters. So new package, and we'll call this adapters. And this will be for our recycler view. So we want to right click and select new Kotlin class, and the first one will be called Pokemon list adapter. And this will just be a normal recycler view. So this will inherit from recycler view.viewHolder. And here we need to pass our view holder, which we will create in a second. And then we need to implement some methods for the recycler view. And we also need to initialize some variables. We will need a click listener. And that is going to equal null. And the Pokemon list. Which will be a mutable list of custom Pokemon list item. And now we need to create our view holder. So our view holder will be called Pokemon view holder. And this will take a value which will be binding, and that will be list row item binding. And this will inherit from recycler view.viewHolder. And then in the brackets here, we just need to pass binding.root for the item view. And then we will have a function here called bind. And this will take an item, which is the custom Pokemon list item. And then the on-click listener. And that will be nullable. Now, firstly, we need to set up the title. So binding row card title dot text equals item dot name dot replace first char, and this is because we want to capitalize the first character, and we're going to check if it is lowercase. It dot title case locale dot root, else it dot toString, and that will capitalize the first character. And instead of lowercase, it needs to be is lowercase. Like that. Next, we need to set up the type. So binding dot And then we want to use this same thing here. So replace first char and that will set up the type. So binding.cardView.set onClick listener, and we call onClick listener, and we just need to set it up down here as well. So interface onClick listener, and this will have a onClick function, and this will take an item, which will be a custom Pokemon list item. And then we also want a function to set the onClick listener as well. So that will be called set onClick listener. And this will take the onClick listener we just defined. So not the view onClick listener, but this one here. And that is the same for this also. And we also need to replace this. So once that's sorted, we can finish off this function here, which will be this.onClickListener equals the onClick listener we pass in the parameters. And in the click listener for the card view, we can call onClickListener.onClick and then pass in the item. And then we just need to put a question mark here. Then the last bit will be setting up the image. So that will be calling item.image.let. And then we can call our image utils and then we pass in the image view, which will be the URL. So it's no longer expecting the context. So we just need to pass in the image view and the string. Next, this will have a companion object with a function called inflateLayout. And this will take a parent layout, which will be the view group. And then we're going to call parent.apply. And then we need access to the inflator, which is layout inflator.from parent.context, and the binding, which is list row item binding dot inflator, and then false. And then we can return the Pokemon view holder with the binding. Next, we can set up the onCreate view holder, which will return Pokemon view holder dot inflate layout, and then pass in the parent. The onBind view holder we'll call holder.bind, and then we can pass in the item, which will be Pokemon list position, and then the onClick listener. Get item count will be the Pokemon list dot size. And just add some more space in here. Next, we need a function for updating the list of Pokemon, and this is used for the pagination. And that will just call Pokemon list.addAll and the list. And then we have the submit list. And this is used when we initially load the Pokemon list when the view is created. And this will call Pokemon list equals list as mutable list custom Pokemon list item. And then we just need to call notified dataset change to refresh the recycler view. And then we just need to invoke this recycler view here and just get rid of any unneeded imports. And that is this recycler view adapter created. For the next adapter, this will be the saved list adapter, so it's going to be pretty similar. So I'm just going to copy and paste it and call it saved list adapter. Now for the binding, it is going to be list saved row item binding. We can get rid of the row item binding here. And this is also going to take another listener, which would be on delete. So on delete listener. And then we want to pass it in the constructor of our bind function here. Right, so this is going to stay exactly the same. The only thing we're going to do is use the binding.rowDeleteImage.set onClickListener, and that is going to call our onDeleteListener. .onDelete. And then it's going to take the item and the position, which we will also add as a parameter. The inflate layout function will be changed slightly, so this is going to return list saved row binding. And then we need to create another interface, so we can copy and paste these functions here. This one will be called onDeleteListener. Function will be called onDelete. And this will take an item and a position. Then we have set onDeleteListener, and we're going to call this onDeleteListener. And then assign it here. And then in the onBind view holder, we want to pass the onDeleteListener and the position. So in the onBind view holder, we want to get rid of the Pokemon list adapter here. And this way, we can pass our onDeleteListener. And also in our onCreate view holder, we want to get rid of this here and just have it return Pokemon saved list adapter. And also in the recycler view adapter here, we just need to make sure we change all of these. That should resolve the issue. So that's sorted. And just make sure in the bind here, we just also add this question mark. And now we can get rid of the submit list function. and this is for when we delete a Pokemon. And all we need to do is pass in a position and then call Pokemon list dot remove at, and then pass in the position, and then one last function called set list. And this will take a list of custom Pokemon item. And first off, we want to clear the Pokemon list and then reassign. Right, and that is it for our Pokemon Save List adapter. So I'm going to end the video here, guys. In this video, we created the ViewModels and the adapters. In the next video, we will create the fragments and also the dialogues. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Please like the video and please subscribe.